Felix Harland stared at the anonymous message blinking on his laptop screen, his coffee forgotten and cooling beside him. She passed out, and they still made her work. The words struck like a slap, simple, unadorned, and loaded with silent desperation. He read them again, then again. Each time, the meaning grew heavier, pulling him into a quiet storm of disbelief and guilt. He'd built Harland Buffett from scratch, molding it from a single rented space with a second-hand steam table into a growing empire of 9 locations. What began as a dream fueled by long hours, cheap ingredients, and relentless hustle had morphed into a chain with polished logos and quarterly reviews. But with expansion came distance, a slow, creeping separation from the kitchen floors where it had all started. Recently, the Southgate location had turned into a sore tooth. Reviews were nosediving. Yelp and Google swarmed with complaints. Slow service, cold food, rude staff. Employees were leaving in waves. And yet, every time Felix asked his district manager for answers, he got the same surface-level reassurances. "We're addressing it. Turnover's normal. It's just a rough patch." But Felix had never tolerated vagueness. It reeked of hidden rot. Leaning back in his chair, he rubbed the back of his neck, tension burning like coiled wire beneath his skin. He hadn't set foot in Southgate in over a year. Most of the staff wouldn't recognize him if he walked in. That wasn't leadership. That was negligence wearing a suit. He picked up the phone. "Hey, it's Ron from corporate. I'll be joining the Southgate crew next week, just shadowing, cross-training," he said. The HR rep didn't ask questions. These undercover visits weren't unheard of, but this one was personal. Over the weekend, Felix transformed. He trimmed his hair to a stiff gray buzz, dusted facial stubble across his cheeks, and swapped his business casual for a faded polo and jeans. He even changed his gait, slower, with a subtle limp. When Monday morning came, Ron was born. Just another invisible man in a white-haired sea of hourly labor. The Southgate buffet roared with noise and heat, grease thick in the air, tension woven into every shouted order. The manager, a tall guy named Derek with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue, gave him one uninterested glance. "You the new guy? Stay out of the way and do what you're told. Got it?" he said. Felix nodded. "Yes, sir." Derek smirked. "Sir, what are you, 60? And just like that, he was dismissed. That first day, Felix chopped lettuce for hours, keeping his head down, ears open. The staff was skeletal. 5 people holding up the entire operation during the lunch rush. A dish guy named Carlos moved like a machine, shoulders hunched, arms soaked. A teenager named Belle darted between food stations and the dessert counter like she was trying to be in 3 places at once. No one spoke out loud about it, but the exhaustion hung in the air like steam. By Thursday, Felix was on the line for dinner service, apron snug around his waist, scooping mashed potatoes with military precision. And then he saw her, Clara. She worked the carving station, a young woman with hollowed cheeks and eyes that looked miles away. Her skin was ghost pale, sweat beading at her temples. She swayed once, barely noticeable. Felix stepped toward her, concern flashing through him. But she caught his glance and shook her head weakly. "I'm fine," she whispered. She wasn't. Moments later, the knife clattered from her grip. Her body collapsed behind the counter. Felix shouted, "She's down! Somebody help!" The dining room hushed in collective shock. Carlos rushed over. Felix followed as Clara was lifted and carried into the back, limp as a rag doll. Derek was already there, arms crossed, face unreadable. "What happened?" "She fainted," Carlos said. "She needs to go home." Derek exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "We're short again. I need her back out there." Felix stared at him in disbelief. "She passed out, man." "She's dramatic," Derek replied, eyes narrowing. "Happens all the time. She'll bounce back." Felix looked at Clara, now slumped on a crate, her breathing shallow, her eyes unfocused like she was underwater. A pit grew in his stomach. You're seriously sending her back out there? She's not bleeding. Dining room's packed. She'll manage, Derek snapped. Carlos stepped forward, voice tight. She's not okay. Someone should take her home. Derek's expression darkened. You volunteering to run dish solo? Felix clenched his jaw so tight it ached. The worst part wasn't Derek's cruelty. It was the silence that followed. No one spoke up. No one stopped it. An hour later, Clara was back at her station, pale, robotic, a ghost among customers. No one acknowledged it. They just kept serving. That night, Felix lay in his motel bed, staring at the popcorn ceiling like it held answers. He'd spent his youth in kitchens like this, scrubbing grease traps, burning his arms on hot pans, sleeping in his car when rent was too high. He had lived it. He had bled for it. But this wasn't hustle. This was something else. This was rot. This wasn't just bad leadership. It was cruelty wrapped in apathy. Felix sat at the edge of his motel bed that night, his notepad open on his lap. His handwriting was sharp, angry even, each name etched with intention. Carlos, Belle, Clara. Every shift logged, every unsafe moment, every exhausted glance. He wasn't building a case for corporate. He was building a mirror, one he planned to hold up to their faces. Friday morning brought the same flickering fluorescent bulb in the dry storage hallway, and the same silent nod from Carlos, already sweat-streaked at the dish pit. But Felix didn't join the line. Instead, he asked to handle stock, and no one batted an eye. Stocking meant shadows, and shadows meant truth. As he moved crates and checked invoices, Felix studied everything. He lingered near the break room long enough to see how people sagged into the plastic chairs, how the only sound in the room was the hum of the soda machine and the occasional deep sigh. On the back wall, a single piece of paper was held up by brittle tape. The schedule. It hit him like a slap. Clara had 5 back-to-back shifts. Belle had 4. Carlos hadn't had a day off in nearly 2 weeks. No HR poster, no hotline, no emergency procedures. It was a void. A place where rules didn't exist, only desperation. He found Clara later in the walk-in cooler, curled on an overturned milk crate, her face flushed, pressed against a box of bagged spinach. Her eyes fluttered open, hazy and detached. You okay? Felix asked gently, keeping his voice low, careful not to startle her. I'm fine, she said automatically, but the tremble in her voice betrayed her. He stepped closer. You don't look fine. She hesitated, then looked down. I get dizzy when I skip breakfast. It's no big deal. Why'd you skip? My shift started at 10. I couldn't be late again. Felix said nothing. He just sat on another crate across from her, elbows on his knees, letting the silence do the talking. That's when she finally looked him in the eye. How long you been here? He asked softly. 8 months. You like it? Her eyes darted to the cooler door. I liked it more before. What changed? People left. Derek said we'd get help, but it never came. He says if we don't push through, we're replaceable. Felix nodded slowly. She spoke like someone used to being invisible. You ever reported? Clara gave a hollow laugh. To who? He's the guy we're supposed to report to. She tugged her sleeves down over her wrists, trying to hide how thin they were. When she finally stood to return to work, Felix watched her steady her shaking hands before picking up a tray. He stayed behind a moment longer, letting the cold air pull his anger into something sharper. By lunchtime, chaos had become routine. Customers poured in. The line backed up. Felix noticed Derek off to the side again, leaning against the soda machine, Bluetooth in his ear, pretending to check his phone. Belle, overwhelmed and clearly sleep-deprived, dropped a tray of cheesecake. She didn't even flinch. Felix stepped in quietly, helping her restock. You in school? He asked, trying to soften the moment. Graduated last year, was supposed to start college, but my mom got laid off. I had to help. Sorry to hear that. She shrugged like it was just another pebble in her shoe. I'm saving up. Trying to get another job, too. A toddler shrieked near the buffet. A metal tray clattered to the floor. Derek looked up, saw it wasn't on fire, and went right back to his phone. Later, when the fried chicken ran out, Felix went to the back. Carlos was elbow-deep in steaming suds. His shirt clung to his back, drenched. Need a hand? Felix asked. Carlos didn't hesitate. If you can run a dish machine, knock yourself out. Felix rolled up his sleeves. The two worked shoulder to shoulder for 30 silent minutes. But Felix noticed the angry red marks on Carlos's forearms, fresh, blistered, unprotected. Steam burns? Felix asked. Carlos didn't answer. He didn't need to. There were no gloves in sight. You ever get backup? Only if I puke in front of a customer. You ever ask for help? Carlos shot him a look that said everything. You think I haven't? The conversation died in the steam. By dinner, the weight in the air was almost visible. Clara's movements were sluggish. Belle had a makeshift ice pack tucked into her apron. Carlos looked like he was about to collapse. Derek spent most of the evening in the office. At closing, he finally emerged. Carlos, clean the fryer. Carlos didn't answer. His eyes were glassy. Carlos, you deaf? It's not on the list tonight. I just put it on. Carlos stared at the fryer, then back at Derek. That's a 40-minute job. Then you better move fast. Felix stepped forward. He just clocked 10 hours. Derek raised an eyebrow, amused. So? You're violating labor regulations if he's not getting overtime. Derek scoffed. You don't know how we do things here. I know burnout when I see it, Felix said flatly. And you're running these people into the ground. Derek stepped closer, voice low and hard. Mind your business, new guy. But Felix wasn't intimidated. He just looked at Carlos, who, without a word, turned toward the fryer with a kind of hollow obedience that made Felix's gut twist. When Carlos disappeared into the kitchen, Felix followed Derek into the office. The door creaked open. Felix didn't knock. He stood in the doorway like a storm on the edge of breaking. You've got 5 minutes. Derek didn't look up from the computer. Make it quick. Felix stepped forward. I've been here all week. I've watched your crew skip breaks. I watched Clara faint and get sent back on the line. I've seen you ignore safety hazards that would shut down any other restaurant. Derek finally turned. And you've seen a normal week. Felix stepped fully into the room. That's the problem. Derek stood, slowly, as if sizing up a threat. Look, whoever you are, you're new. You don't get it. These kids, they'll take advantage of you if you let them. You give them a break, and they walk all over you. You think I like being the bad guy? I'm the one keeping this place from going under. Felix's voice dropped, but his eyes didn't waver. You're not keeping it afloat, Felix said, his voice calm but cutting. You're draining it. Derek leaned back in his chair, his expression defensive. You've got no idea what it takes to run a place like this. Felix stepped forward, eyes locked on him. You're right. I don't know everything, but I know what it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be this. He didn't wait for an argument. He turned and walked out of the office without looking back. In the kitchen, the air was still thick with grease and weariness. Carlos was bent over the fryer, his eyes dull. Carlos, Felix called, you're done. Clock out. Carlos blinked in disbelief. But the fryer, I'll take it. Felix rolled up his sleeves, the steel in his voice leaving no room for debate. He didn't say another word that night. He just worked, silently, steadily, like a man laying bricks on the foundation of something new. Before the sun even crested the horizon the next morning, Felix was already there. He sat alone in his car in the parking lot, watching lights stretch across the pavement and kiss the windows of the buffet. It was quiet, the kind of silence that forces you to reckon with your own convictions. Belle arrived first, rubbing sleep from her eyes. You're early, she said, squinting at him. Just wanted to see how the day begins, he said with a small smile. She tilted her head, skeptical. You're weird. I hear that a lot. Inside, Felix walked straight to the back office and pulled out his phone. Call everyone. HR, legal, operations. Emergency review. Schedule it now, he told his assistant. Derek's done. I want him gone before the next shift clock in. There was a pause on the other end. You sure? Absolutely. He ended the call and walked to the front office. Derek was there as usual, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, scrolling as if nothing was wrong. Hey, Felix said, voice composed. Derek didn't look up. What now? Felix stepped into the office and quietly shut the door. I'm not Ron. Derek paused. My name is Felix Harland, he said. I own this company. Derek froze, his mouth falling open slightly. You're done here, Felix continued, voice still calm. It's not about what happened yesterday. It's about what's been happening every day. Derek stood quickly, trying to collect himself. Wait, look, if this is about Clara fainting, it's about Clara, and Carlos, and Belle. And every person you've run into the ground. Felix pointed to the keys on the desk. Pack your things. HR will walk you out. Derek went pale. You can't. I just did. Felix turned, opened the door, and walked away. Out in the hallway, the team was starting to gather, their bodies weary, their eyes cautious. Clara leaned against the wall, her face drawn. Carlos had his apron slung over one shoulder, the weight of another day already visible in his posture. Belle rubbed her wrist absently, avoiding eye contact. Felix stepped into the middle of them, drawing a slow breath. I want to say something, and I want you to hear me. They looked up, unsure. I've seen what you've been through this week. I'm sorry. You deserve better. The air shifted. Still uncertain, but now tinged with hope. I own this company, he said simply. I went undercover because I didn't trust what I was hearing. He scanned their faces, tired, guarded, but listening. Turns out I had good reason. Derek is gone, effective immediately. A ripple of stunned silence passed between them. We're bringing in a temporary general manager while we rebuild this place from the ground up. Payroll is being audited. If you're owed overtime, you'll be paid. No exceptions. Carlos blinked, his mouth parting slightly. Belle looked like she wanted to ask if this was real, but couldn't form the words. We're hiring, starting now. You're getting help. No more double shifts. No more skipped breaks. And if anyone ever threatens your job for asking to rest or eat, you come to me. Directly, Clara swallowed. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Why would you care? Felix met her eyes. Because it's my name on the sign, and that means something to me. He paused, letting the silence land with weight. Then he exhaled and nodded. Let's get to work. Later that morning, Felix stood just outside the swinging kitchen doors, watching as the crew filtered in with slow, uncertain steps. The tension was still there, like residual smoke after a fire. No one quite knew how to act around him now. Not after what he'd revealed. And that was okay. He wasn't wearing the apron anymore. Today, he wore a simple blue button-down and a worn leather belt. No name tag, no authority badge. He wasn't here as the owner. He was here as a man trying to make it right. Carlos, he called out. Carlos turned, cautious. Can I talk to you for a minute? Carlos walked over slowly, wiping his damp hands on a towel. I'm not in trouble, am I? Felix shook his head. No, not at all. He studied Carlos for a moment. The quiet strength, the exhaustion, the unspoken leadership. I need someone who knows this kitchen, someone the team respects. Would you be willing to step in as interim shift lead until we get a new GM in place? Carlos stared at him, blinking slowly, as if trying to decode whether this was real. Then he nodded, once. Yeah, I think I can do that, Felix smiled. Good, because I think you already have me, Carlos said, stunned. Felix nodded. You've already been carrying this place on your back. I just want to make it official. He paused, letting the weight of the moment settle before continuing. You'll get the pay bump. Training too. Carlos rubbed the back of his neck, doubt flickering across his face. But what if I mess it up? Felix smiled, not patronizing but steady. Then we fix it together. But I don't think you will. You've got good instincts. That's the part you can't teach. Carlos looked down for a moment, processing, calculating the risk. Then he nodded. All right. I'll try good, Felix said. I'll walk you through the schedule later. As they stepped back into the kitchen, Felix's eyes landed on Belle at the dessert counter. She moved like clockwork, mechanical, quiet, headphones dangling from her collar. He approached slowly. Morning, he said. She looked up, eyes wary but open. I've been thinking about what you said the other day. About helping your mom. Belle stiffened just slightly. Her guard wasn't down yet. I've set up an emergency support fund, Felix said, not a handout. A safety net, for rent, food, whatever you need short term. I've already approved a disbursement for you. You'll see it next week. Her jaw clenched, confused. Why? You don't even know me. Felix didn't flinch. I know enough. And I know the system's failed you for too long. That's on me. I'm the system now, and I intend to fix it. Belle stared at him for a beat, then nodded once, sharp, fast, and turned back to her pastries. Thanks. Felix left her to it. In the office, a lean man in his 40s waited, David. Gray jacket, calm posture, sharp eyes. A stabilizer. Felix extended a hand. David, thanks for coming on short notice. David shook it. Happy to help. Sounds like this place needs a hard reset. You'll be acting GM. I'll be sticking around the rest of the week to support the transition. David nodded. Can I run a pre-shift huddle? Felix smiled. Be my guest. A few minutes later, the entire morning crew gathered near the prep line. There was no chatter, only quiet apprehension. David stepped forward. My name's David. I'm here to manage this location while we stabilize. He looked around, reading faces, reading the exhaustion. I'm not here to lecture or clean house, but I do have expectations. He held up one hand. Number 1, no one works through breaks, period. Number 2, if you're sick, stay home. We'll cover it. Number 3, if anyone raises a safety concern, it will be taken seriously. Immediately, toward the back, a tall young man working grill shifted his weight. Felix recognized him. Shaved head, thin scar on his cheek, watching everything with quiet skepticism. David continued. And finally, if anyone talks down to you, disrespects you, makes you feel small, you come to me. No exceptions. Felix scanned the room. A few people exchanged glances. Clara stood with her arms crossed, unreadable. After the huddle, Felix approached her. I know this is a lot. Clara tilted her head. You think I'm going to trust you overnight? She looked past him, then back. But you're still here. For now. She exhaled. Then I've got one question. Go ahead. Why'd you let it get this bad? That one hit hard. Felix looked down for a moment. I thought I had the right people in place. I stopped looking with my own eyes. She didn't soften. Didn't let him off easy. Then start looking harder. She walked off. And she was right. By lunchtime, the shift was running. Not perfectly, but better. Tired bodies moved with a steadier rhythm. The edge of panic was gone. Carlos was checking stations calmly, making adjustments without barking orders. It wasn't smooth, but it wasn't broken. Until it was. At the salad bar, a tall employee named Marcus was berating a younger girl, Shrea. Barely in her 20s, nervous, clearly new. I told you not to touch the slicer, Marcus snapped. I was just following the prep list, Shrea replied, voice barely audible. Maybe read it right next time. Or better yet, don't touch anything until someone tells you. I was trying to. You people never listen. Felix froze. His gut clenched. That wasn't just frustration. That was something uglier. He stepped in, voice like ice. Is there a problem? Marcus straightened quickly. Just training the new girl. Felix turned to Shrea, who looked down, clearly shaken. What did you just say to her? Felix asked Marcus directly. Nothing serious, heat of the moment. You said you people. Explain that. Marcus stumbled. I didn't mean anything by it. Just, the new hires sometimes get confused. That's not what you said, Felix replied, voice sharp now. It was just a dumb moment. No, it was disrespect. And it suggested something much worse. Marcus raised his hands, deflecting. Look, I didn't mean… You're done here. What? You're fired. You're firing me over one comment? I'm firing you because I don't tolerate discrimination. Not once. Not ever. Marcus looked around, but no one backed him up. He pulled off his apron and left without another word. Felix turned to Shrea. I'm sorry you went through that, he said gently. She nodded, eyes still wide. If you ever feel unsafe or disrespected, come to me or David. Always yes, she whispered. You're doing fine. Keep asking questions. She gave him the faintest smile. Shy, but real. Later in the back, Felix pulled David aside. Keep an eye on the slicer schedule. Make sure Shrea gets shadowed. David nodded. Already on it. That afternoon, Felix saw Clara at the water cooler. She didn't sit. She was too conditioned for that. But she leaned on the wall for a breath. You holding up? Felix asked. She gave a subtle nod. Better than yesterday. That counts. She studied him. You really gonna stay a few more days? I am, he said, not just physically. She didn't answer. But she didn't walk away either. Hiring's in progress, Felix added. I'm not filling gaps with warm bodies. We hire right. No more burning. People out. Clara looked toward the kitchen. Still gaps. Still tired people. I know. But even so, something had shifted. By end of shift, the difference was quiet, but real. No snapping at each other, no desperation in their steps. Just tired people doing a hard job with a bit more dignity. Carlos made sure the dish pit was cleared and shut down. Belle cross-checked inventory with someone else. Clara cleaned her station without looking over her shoulder. Before locking up, Felix lingered in the back hallway. He stood in front of the schedule board. Still too many double shifts. Still too many blank spots. Still work to do. But the cracks were being filled with care this time, not fear. He pulled out his phone and made one last call for the day. Yeah, it's me, Felix said into the phone, his voice low but unwavering. I want to restructure the district oversight model. Too much power's been concentrated in hands that never earned it. He paused, letting the silence hang heavy before adding, I'll have proposals on your desk by Monday. He ended the call and looked out the window. In the parking lot, Carlos walked beside Belle, speaking in a low, calm tone as she nodded. Her body language more relaxed than Felix had ever seen. Clara trailed just behind, her apron casually tossed into the return bin. They didn't notice him watching, and that was fine. He wasn't here for praise. He was here to make it right. Saturday began like a reset, clipboard in hand, resolve in his chest. Felix arrived early, unlocking the back door himself. He didn't move like a CEO. He moved like a man starting from scratch. He walked the length of the Southgate buffet with fresh eyes, not as an owner, not as a temporary worker, but as a builder surveying the foundation of a place he had almost let rot. The floors? Clean. The storage room? Organized. The fryer? Scrubbed. But the schedule board? Still bleeding. Open shifts, overlapping hours, no full day off for Clara or Belle until next Thursday. Progress, but not peace. David arrived shortly after, binder in hand, coffee in the other. Hiring board started downtown, he said, laying the binder on the prep table. 3 strong candidates, 2 ex-leads, 1 bakery line hybrid. We'll start them on split shifts, Felix said without looking up. No one gets dumped on. David flipped open the binder. Payroll pulled the last 60 days, 15 missed overtime entries. 1 timesheet deletion. Felix's jaw tightened. Who? Derek. All on his login. HR's flagged it for legal. Good. I want checks out by end of week. No delays. As the crew trickled in, Felix watched quietly from the edges. Clara moved with more presence, still pacing herself, but with a sense of control. Belle had her wrist braced, but she was steady. Carlos held a clipboard now, checking, coordinating. It was subtle, but it was real. He caught Clara near the walk-in cooler. "I want to adjust your schedule. I'm fine," she answered too quickly. "I'm not asking if you're fine. I'm asking what you need." She glanced at the prep list, wary. "I can't afford to lose hours." "I'm not cutting. I'm shifting. Lunch shifts Monday and Wednesday instead of late doubles. You'll have Tuesday and Thursday evenings off. Full Saturday, too." She blinked, still guarded. "And your check will reflect your average. I've approved supplemental hours until we're fully staffed." She folded her arms. "You're not doing this just to make yourself feel better, are you?" "No," Felix said gently. "I'm doing it because I should have done it a long time ago." She nodded once, then walked off. No thank you, none was needed. Just before the lunch rush, Felix reset the salad bar with Shrea. She laid fresh greens with growing confidence, still glancing twice at the labels. "You're getting faster," he said. "I went over the allergen chart twice last night." "Smart," Felix replied. "That'll save someone a trip to the ER one day." She offered a small, tight smile. "I don't want to mess up." "You're allowed to make mistakes," he said, "but you're not allowed to be treated like you're disposable. That ends here." She didn't reply, but her shoulders straightened. By 11 o'clock, the flow began. Families, college kids, regulars whose faces he recognized from old Facebook posts. It was steady, manageable. Clara carved meat with quiet precision. Carlos rotated trays and kept the rhythm moving. Belle focused on drinks and desserts, her movements deliberate, her posture strong. After the rush, Carlos approached. "Need to talk." "Go ahead. There's a guy, Malik. Worked here last year. Derek cut his hours out of nowhere after he complained about leaking fryers. Said he had attitude, but Malik just spoke up. You trust him?" Felix asked. "Yeah, he's fast, smart. Knows the whole back line, send me his info. If he's interested, I'll cover his first 3 days." Carlos nodded and walked off. By afternoon, the pace slowed. Felix stepped outside for the first time, sitting near the employee entrance. David joined him, finally sipping his coffee. "You planning to do this everywhere?" David asked. "Random drop-ins?" "No, that only works once." "You sure?" Felix looked out toward the lot. "I'm not interested in playing boss in disguise. I'm interested in making sure no one needs to be rescued from their job." David nodded. "This kind of culture, it creeps in quietly. You caught Southgate. What about the others?" "I've already ordered a full employee audit. Anonymous surveys, third-party interviews. I want to know where we're bleeding, and if the results are ugly, then we fix it. Or we shut it down." David didn't need to respond. Back inside, the early dinner crowd began to build. Felix stayed, back, watching, and this time he saw something new. Clara cracked a quiet joke. Belle gently corrected an order without flinching. Shrea said, "Enjoy your meal," and actually meant it. Then a red-faced man near the tray, return, exploded. "She put my plate next to the meat. I told her I don't eat that garbage. What kind of idiot?" Felix was there before anyone else. "That's enough." The man turned. "Who are you?" "The person telling you she doesn't deserve to be spoken to like that. I'm the customer. I pay your wages." Felix didn't blink. "Then consider this your refund. You're done here. You can't kick me out." "Yes, I can. And I just did." The man muttered and stormed out. Shrea stood stunned. "You okay?" Felix asked. She nodded slowly. "Wasn't expecting that. You handled it fine. I thought I messed up." "You didn't." Felix turned to the customers nearby. "Thanks for your patience. Your food will be out shortly, no complaints, no exits, just silent support." Later that evening, as the shift wound down, Felix gathered the crew near the dish pit. No big speech. Just a few words. Tomorrow's going to be hard. So will next week. I'm not here to pretend we're fixed, but this week, you've shown what this place can be when people are treated like they matter. Carlos crossed his arms. Clara leaned against the cooler. Belle stood with her apron still on. Shrea lingered, quiet but listening. You're not invisible anymore, Felix said. And you're not alone. We're going to build something better. Together, no applause, just nods. That was enough. As the lights dimmed and the last door locked, Felix paused at the entrance, keys in hand. He looked back one last time. The Southgate buffet wasn't perfect, but it wasn't broken in the dark anymore. It was healing, and this time, it was healing in the light.